Hey, my name is Sonny, and I'm a codependent. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about how we can reformat our hard drive, how we reshape our neural network to achieve healthy relationships. So I stated earlier that I'm a codependent, but that is not what's going to define me. I'm many other things, just a codependent. I am an immigrant. I am a proud Dane, which means I'm also a Viking. I am a father. I'm a brother. I am a son. I'm the oldest son. And I also have mental health issues. And what happened to me was my life blew apart about 2 years ago when I had my big crash, which was my failed relationship with my wife. I came home to a house with no kids, no passports, no social security numbers, no birth certificates, no nothing. And I didn't know where the kids or my ex-wife was for 5 days. That's when I knew that I had to do something about myself. That's when I knew that I had to do a lot of work on myself. But unfortunately, for me, I didn't enter into CoDA until about 6 months later. Why? Because my number one priority was to figure out where the kids were, figuring out where my ex-wife was. Had she left the country? So I was very fortunate to be able to figure all those things out, and then I entered into CoDA. And what I found out was that a lot of things were not just her fault, but they were actually built because of me. And that's when I found out that I had to really discover my own mental health and be in touch with my own mental health to be able to understand how these affect in my relationships. Now in 2012, when I was in graduate school, I was diagnosed with obsessive-compulsive personality disorder. Obsessive-compulsive disorder, a lot of people have probably heard about that, but obsessive-compulsive personality disorder is a disorder in which you cannot feel feelings in the moment. You have a latency on feelings. And I was in graduate school to be a mathematician. So when you're a mathematician, there's only one thing and one thing that works only, and that is proof. So I was living by the theorem, which is facts do not care about your feelings. That turned out to be a very big problem because, what I found out was that during my divorce, we entered our oldest son into counseling, and I was recommended this book, which is how I first reshaped my mind. It's How to Talk So the Little Kids Will Listen. I would recommend it to any parent that has small children. And chapter 1 talks about tools for handling emotion and how to talk about feelings. Chapter 1. The one thing that I, for 30 years, had not wanted to discuss was my own emotions and my own feelings, and that is literally chapter 1 in How to Talk So the Little Kids Will Listen. I was at the retreat last year, and a person talked to me because I was repressing a lot of emotion and a lot of feelings because I was going through the contentious divorce. And that person looked at me and said, "No, Sonny, your feelings matter." And I looked at her and I said, "Yeah, but I'll be okay." Now, when I started reading this book and had my son in counseling, the teacher or the counselor told me that I had to get him talking about feelings. Had to have him talking about feelings and what he was going through. So I started to talk to my son, Jasper, about feelings. What I figured out really fast was that talking about feelings for anybody is very uncomfortable. And if you press somebody to talk about feelings when they're not ready to talk about feelings, they will push back on you. So one day, I looked at Jasper and I said, "So how does this make you feel?" And he looked at me and he screamed at me, "Far," which is Danish for dad. "I do not want to talk about feelings." When I saw that anger, it was like looking at myself 30 years ago. As a little child, standing there, not want to talk about feelings or not acknowledging my own feelings. So that's when I figured out that facts might not care about your feelings, but feelings very much care about your facts. So that's when I started to figure out that obsessive compulsive personality disorder has a latency in how you feel feelings. but it also has something which is categorized as you put moments into filters. Okay, so you have all these, think of it as a Polaroid of like an old, remember an old Polaroid where you see like flash of images? That's how my life basically happens. So I have all these moments in my life that has happened, but I never felt the feelings in those moments. So what I've tried to do to reshape my mind is I try to read a lot of self-help books, and I've tried to decrease the latency on these feelings such that I can be more in touch with my own emotions in the moment and when they happen. Another book that I want to recognize here is another book by a very famous mental health specialist called Dr. Burns. It's called Feeling Good Together, The Secret of Making Troubled Relationship Works. I can recommend this book to anybody. And one of the things it talks about in here is it talks about the EAR checklist. The EAR checklist is ways of how you have positive and good communication. EAR, E stands for empathy, which means the first thing you should do in a conversation is you should acknowledge the other person's feelings. The second thing is you should be assertive. You should share your own feelings. And the third thing is you should show respect to that person. Now, if you follow those three things, then you have good communication. Now, a lot of us can probably go through a lot of conversation and figure out we probably did none of those things because we only cared about what we thought were right. So a lot of exercises in this book I've done, and specifically with my now ex-wife, I went through a lot of scenarios, and there's a 5-step checklist, which is what the person said, what you responded, did you acknowledge feelings, how can you remedy this, and what could be a new approach. And a lot of these approaches that I've had, I literally did not do any of these things. I did not show empathy. I was assertive, but in a very aggressive manner, and I showed absolutely no respect. Now, is this enough to make another person change? Of course not. But it's something that can change you within. And with you change within, then you will see positive change going outwards. You can show love to somebody else. Another book in this moment, to reshape your mind, reshape your neural network as I call it, is in this Moment meditation book. This is one of the latest ones that I've picked up, and I read it almost every day. And one of the things that is great about this book is it gives you encouragements and self-affirmations basically for every single day. When I started reading this book, and when I started doing affirmations, I was like, this is just a bunch of BS, honestly, because it's just a bunch of words. How is words going to change me? Give me an equation, give me a formula, and I can say I can prove it all day long. But words is not going to change me. But what I found out was when I started getting in touch with my own emotion is that words can change. Affirmations are positive affirmations are something that will change your personality. So even though I struggle with a mental health condition, I'm now starting to reshape my mind, reshape my neural network in such a way that I can have positive and healthy relationships. So what does this all come down to in the end? Is a tool belt. A tool belt for which you should be using going forward to achieve healthy relationships. I've tried many tool belts. I have tried the proof by contradiction, proof by disproof, all these various proof mechanisms, and found out that in a relationship, that does not work. That does not work. That works really well at a math conference, but in relationships, that really sucks. That is very, very, very bad forms of communication. No matter how much proof, no matter how much facts I can show, it's not going to change the other person's mind. It's not going to change the other person's belief. What you can do is you can allow that person space and room to be a good listener, to have good communication. So the tool belt that I came up with, that is something that I try to now live by, is the 12 steps. The 12 steps is now my tool belt, along with all these other books that I'm reading, is something that I can use every day in my everyday life in such a way that I achieve healthy relationships with people that I have never met, with people that I've known for a long time, and with people that I've interacted with on committees. And I try to live by what I call the 1-3-10 cycle. We have 12 steps. How many of you guys would like to memorize? Any of you guys like to memorize? Okay, great. So can we have all the 12 steps going from 1 to 12? Oh, okay, I'm just kidding.
I can do that.
Okay.
But I don't have to.
No, you don't have to. No. So memorization is good, but a lot of us, unless you like it, unless you're similar to me, who likes to process a lot of information, then it's good to just have a checklist. And what I do in a situation is I try to go by what I call the 1-3-10 cycle. What does step 1 say? Yes, so we admitted we're powerless over others and the life has become unmanageable. So how can I reshape that in a way that is positive? The way I look at that is, I'm powerless over others. What does that mean for me? That means, have I done anything that's within my control? If I've done anything that's within my control, I move to step 3. Can somebody remind me of step 3?
Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as minister.
Thank you. Made a decision, a conscious decision, to turn our lives and will over to the care of God as we understood God. So how do I reshape that into something that I can use in everyday life? That means if I've done anything that's inside my control, step 3 tells me now leave it up to God. Leave it up to your higher power. Throw it out into the ether. And does somebody remember what step 10 says?
Take personal inventory. And
when you're wrong, promptly admitting it. When you're keep taking personal inventory, and when you're wrong, promptly admitting it. Now you have your step 4, your step 5, your step 8, your step 9, which is going to go more into these steps a lot more deeply. But step 10 is how you can use this every day. So yes, have I done anything that's within my control? The answer is yes. I move to step 3. Now I leave it up to my higher power. Now I leave it out into the ether. And number 10 says, keep taking personal inventory, and when I'm wrong, promptly admitting it. What does that mean? That means I analyze the situation and say, is there something that I did that either offended the other person, hurt the other person's feelings, or was able to make this situation worse? If my answer is yes, and no, I can let it go. That actually rhymed. I didn't mean to do that, but
We give you time to let it rhyme.
yeah, exactly. So that was my talk about how to reshape our hard drive, the reformatting of our neural network to achieve healthy relationship. Thank you.